Not for kings, not for merchants, for a child who was about to inherit the most powerful economy the ancient world had ever seen. And almost no one has read them correctly, because every generation has treated them as moral advice, spiritual poetry, Sunday morning encouragement dressed in old language. They are not. They are a financial operating system, precise, tested, proven across 3,000 years of economic collapse, persecution, war, and exile by the people who never stop reading them. By the end of this teaching, you will hold all 7. And a prayer of wisdom and inheritance is waiting for you at the close. Stay until it arrives. Here is the reality most people are sitting inside right now. You were handed a diploma, maybe 2. You were taught algebra, chemistry, literature, history. You were given a framework for understanding the world. No one handed you a framework for building wealth inside it. The school system was never designed to produce owners. It was designed to produce employees. People trained to generate income for systems that were already built, not people equipped to build systems of their own. And so you entered adulthood financially illiterate, inside an economy that profits from that illiteracy. The credit card arrived before the wisdom to refuse it. The car payment felt normal because everyone around you had one. The paycheck disappeared before the month did. And somewhere in the back of your mind a question formed that no class ever answered. Why does it feel like I am always one emergency away from collapse? Solomon answered that question 3,000 years ago. In a book he wrote for his own child. In language so precise it reads like a surgical manual for the exact financial wounds you are carrying right now. 7 laws, written by the wealthiest man in recorded history, for his son. Not one of them is taught in school. Law 1: wisdom before wealth, always. Proverbs 4:7. Read it slowly. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom. Though it cost all you have, get understanding. Notice what Solomon does not say. He does not say get income. He does not say get assets. He does not say get connections or credentials or capital. He says get wisdom first, and get it at any cost. This is not motivational language. This is a sequencing's instruction. Solomon was the proof of his own principle. In 1 Kings chapter 3, when God appeared and told him to ask for anything he wanted, Solomon did not ask for gold. He did not ask for military dominance or political power or the destruction of his enemies. He asked for a discerning heart, and God gave him both. The wisdom first, the wealth as a consequence. Most people reverse the sequence. They chase money hoping wisdom will follow. But provision does not precede understanding. It follows it. Wealth handed to a person without the architecture to hold it does not build a legacy. It funds a lifestyle until it disappears. The first law is not a suggestion. It is the foundation every other law rests on. Law 2: guard your margin like a soldier guards a perimeter. Proverbs 21:20. The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. This verse is almost never preached from a pulpit, because it is not comfortable. It does not promise overflow. It demands discipline before overflow arrives. The wise store up. That phrase in the original Hebrew carries the weight of strategic placement. Not hoarding, positioning, building the reserve before the season demands it. Benjamin Graham spent an entire career translating this single idea into the language of modern markets. He called it the margin of safety. Never operate at full capacity. Always keep something in reserve, because the gap between your obligations and your actual resources is not empty space. That gap is armor. Solomon was already living this principle at a scale Graham could only study in theory. At the height of his reign, Solomon's 12 administrative districts each provided 1 month of provision for the royal household. Not one district carrying everything. 12 sources, each contributing their portion. The load distributed. The system stable. No single point of failure capable of collapsing the whole. Ask yourself honestly, if your income stopped today, how many days before the armor fails? That number is your margin. And your margin is your freedom. The second law is this: before you spend, before you give, before you invest, store. Build the cushion. Protect the gap. Because the wise person does not fear the hard season. They built for it. Law 3. Never bind your future to someone else's decision. Proverbs 22:7. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Solomon chose that word with precision. Not servant, slave. He watched it happen in real time inside his own kingdom. Merchants who pledged collateral for a neighbor's debt. Families who co-signed agreements with strangers. Men who borrowed gold to fund ambitions they had not yet earned, and lost sovereignty they could never recover. The moment debt enters a relationship, between brothers, between business partners, between a citizen and an institution, the power balance shifts permanently. One party holds obligation, the other holds control. And debt does not just take your money. It takes your options. The person carrying a loan payment cannot walk away from an exploitative employer, cannot take the risk the opportunity demands, cannot say no to the request they know is wrong, because saying no might cost them the income the payment requires. Charlie Munger spent 6 decades studying financial failure. The pattern he found in bankruptcy after bankruptcy was always the same. People borrowed against future income they were not guaranteed to earn. Then circumstances changed. The income vanished. The debt remained. His conclusion was surgical. The greatest financial move is often the one you do not make. The purchase you skip. The loan you refuse. The co-signing you decline. Solomon said it 3,000 years earlier. In fewer words, the borrower is slave. The third law, protect your future by refusing to pledge it to someone else's choices. Every obligation you avoid is a door that stays open. Every debt you decline is a portion of your freedom you keep. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or your country in the comments below, because this wisdom is landing on every continent, in every time zone. And this community needs to know how far the reach of these 7 laws has traveled. Tell us where you are. Law 4, know the condition of everything you own. Proverbs 27:23. Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. Solomon was not writing agricultural poetry. He was describing the daily discipline of a man who understood that provision does not maintain itself. In the ancient world, flocks were wealth. They were capital. They were the balance sheet made visible, breathing, grazing. And the instruction Solomon gives is not about caring for animals. It is about the discipline of honest assessment, regular attention, knowing exactly what you have, what it is worth, what it is producing, and what threatens it. Most people do not actually know the condition of their financial life. They know the general shape of it. They have a rough idea of what comes in and a rough idea of what goes out. But the specifics, the actual numbers, the actual obligations, the actual net worth calculated honestly, those numbers live in a fog most people have quietly decided not to walk into, because the fog is more comfortable than the truth. Solomon says, walk in, give careful attention, know the exact condition. This is not fear. This is stewardship. A manager who does not know the inventory cannot protect it, cannot grow it, cannot detect the leak before it drains the reservoir. Proverbs 20:18 reinforces the law from a different angle. Plans are established by seeking advice. So if you wage war, obtain guidance. You cannot fight what you have not mapped. You cannot build what you have not measured. The fourth law, sit down with your actual numbers. Write every obligation. Calculate every asset. Know the condition of everything you own, because a steward who manages from ignorance is not a steward. He is a gambler waiting to lose. Law 5, build systems. Not just income. 1 Kings 10:14 tells us that the weight of gold arriving in Jerusalem each year was 666 talents. Historians convert that figure to a modern equivalent that exceeds $2 trillion in annual income. Not net worth, annual income. Now ask the question Solomon would want you to ask. How does a man in the ancient world, without banks, without digital infrastructure, without international law, build a machine that generates that kind of provision year after year? The answer is in the architecture. Solomon did not earn transactionally. He built systemically. He did not sell goods once. He built roads that goods traveled repeatedly. He did not make one deal. He created the conditions under which deals could not happen anywhere else without passing through him. He positioned himself at the intersection of three continents: Egypt to the southwest, Mesopotamia to the northeast, Arabia to the southeast. And he built store cities at strategic intervals. He taxed movement, not just production. He was not a merchant. He was the market. Proverbs 8:12. Wisdom herself speaks and says, I dwell with prudence, and I find out knowledge and discretion. Wisdom does not stumble onto position. She finds it. She calculates it. She dwells there permanently. The difference between a person who earns and a person who builds wealth is not effort. It is architecture. The earner trades time for money. The builder creates something that generates return whether he shows up or not. Solomon built his copper smelting operation in the Araba Valley with furnace shafts engineered to harness the desert winds. The wind did the work. His cost dropped to near nothing. His output remained constant. His surplus grew with every passing season. One investment in placement. Repeated return from natural force. That is the fifth law. Stop building only income. Start building systems. Ask where value already flows in your world. Then position yourself there. Because income stops when you stop. Systems do not. These laws are landing in your spirit right now. If something in this teaching is confirming what you already suspected about why the financial advice you have been given has never been enough, take 1 second and give this video a like. It tells us this wisdom is reaching the right people. Law 6. The alliance that multiplies is worth more than the transaction that pays. 1 Kings chapter 5. Solomon needed cedar and juniper logs for the temple. Israel did not have forests. Hiram of Tyre had forests. Solomon needed skilled craftsmen. Hiram had Phoenician artisans whose technical mastery was unmatched in the region. Solomon offered in return wheat, barley, olive oil, and wine, agricultural products that Phoenicia's coastal geography could not easily produce in the same volume. Neither party could fully thrive without the other. The alliance was not charity. It was mutual necessity. Each side supplying what only they could offer. Each side receiving what they could not produce alone. This is the model of the arrangement that multiplies, not the transaction that depletes, not the partnership that extracts. The covenant of exchange where both parties leave stronger than they arrived. Most people approach their professional relationships transactionally. What can I get from this person today? What is the immediate return on this connection? Solomon thought in a different dimension. He asked, what do I have that no one else can provide? And who has what I cannot build alone? Then he built an alliance rooted in that mutual answer. The Rothschild family scaled from regional banking to global reach using this same model, operating as collective liquidity across borders. Each branch positioned in what only it could offer. No single node overcommitted. Sir John Templeton built one of the greatest investment records of the 20th century on a principle that mirrors this law precisely. Buy where others are not looking. Position in what others have not valued. Then let the alliance between patient capital and overlooked opportunity compound quietly. The sixth law. Stop asking what a relationship can give you today. Start asking whether this is a relationship of mutual necessity. Because the transaction ends when the payment clears. The alliance compounds for decades. Law 7. Your legacy is only as durable as what you teach. Proverbs 13:22. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. This is not merely moral observation. This is economic prophecy. The statistics behind it are brutal. 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation, 90% by the third. The failure is not financial. It is educational. The second generation receives money but not method. The third generation receives neither. Solomon did not write the book of Proverbs as a collection of inspirational quotes. He wrote it as a curriculum, a transfer document, a manual that would carry the operating system of wealth across generations, even when the teacher was no longer in the room. Every chapter is addressed to a son. My son, if you receive my words, my son, do not forget my teaching. My son, let your heart hold fast my commandments. The language is deliberate. Solomon understood that the most fragile point in any generational wealth transfer is not the moment of death. It is the decade of silence before it. The years when a parent is alive but the teaching never happens. When the principles live inside one mind and never get spoken out loud, written down, demonstrated in daily decision. Watchman Nee, the Chinese minister who endured imprisonment rather than compromise his convictions, taught that every possession you hold must be kept at God's disposal, ready to serve the purpose of the kingdom at any moment. A person as this does not pass down accounts. They pass down a posture toward money, a relationship to provision, a theology of stewardships so embedded in the family culture that even exile cannot erase it. This is why Jewish communities have preserved wealth across 2,000 years of economic warfare. They did not just pass down capital. They passed down the covenant, the rule of thirds, the protective clause, the obligation to know the condition of your flocks, the discipline of margin, transmitted not as financial advice, but as sacred identity. Your children do not learn financial discipline from lectures. They learn it from watching how you handle money under pressure, what you do when the bill arrives, what you say when the opportunity tempts, whether you panic in the famine or draw from the reserve you built in the harvest. The seventh law. The inheritance that lasts is not money. It is method. Write it down. Speak it out loud. Make the principles visible before the transfer becomes necessary. Because wealth handed without wisdom is a countdown, not a legacy. Application 7 laws, given by the wealthiest man in history, to his own child, written for exactly the situation you are standing in right now. Here is what you do with them. Start with Law 4. Know the condition of everything you own. Sit down this week with your actual numbers. Write every debt, every asset, every monthly obligation in plain language. You cannot apply the other 6 laws to a financial life you have not honestly mapped. Then apply Law 2. Find the margin you are currently consuming and protect it. Even a small surplus, built and protected consistently, is the beginning of the architecture Solomon described. Then ask Law 5's question. Where does value already flow in your world? Where could you position yourself to benefit from movement that is already happening, without having to create the movement yourself? Do this faithfully, quietly, without announcing it. The wise store up. They do not post about it and teach what you learn, not when you have perfected it. Now, because the 7th law does not wait for your financial life to be finished. It begins the moment the teaching starts. If this channel has been a place of genuine wisdom for you, if these 7 laws have given you language for what you already felt was true, subscribe now. This community is being built for people who are serious about building something that lasts. Press the button before we go to prayer. Close your eyes if you can, or align your thoughts with mine right now. Let the noise of the day go quiet for just a moment. Let what you heard today settle into the place where decisions are made. Let us pray together. Father, we come before you as children who were never taught what you deposited in the wisdom of Solomon for exactly our generation. We confess that we have chased income without building architecture. We have spent margin instead of protecting it. We have entered obligations we should have refused and avoided the honest assessment that would have told us the truth. Forgive us for the financial illiteracy we inherited and for the ways we have passed it forward without interrupting the pattern. Today we receive these 7 laws not as information, but as inheritance, as a curriculum written by a father for a child who was about to face a world that profits from ignorance. Give us the wisdom